Next question is from Jada Rankin. Could you explain more about the central nervous system and how it influences performance and recovery?
Oh, I love that somebody asked this question. Of all the things that I think that we've shared with each other during this journey that we've been in for almost 8+ years now, one of my favorite things that you have ever said, Sal, was the speaker amplifier analogy.
Yeah.
I have to admit, up until that point, I don't think I ever communicated central nervous system to my clients very well until that. And I felt like a light bulb went off for me. Like, what a great way to explain its role, because it is extremely complicated, but unbelievably important to your recovery and performance and muscle building.
Yeah, muscles are dumb, right? If you take your bicep off your body, it just sits there. It doesn't do anything. The central nervous system is what tells it what to do. And so the analogy is like that I used is that your muscles are speakers and your central nervous system is the amplifier. And you could have like very high performance speakers, very big, powerful speakers. But if your amplifier is non-existent or sucks or weak, you're not going to get any performance out of the speakers.
Or very minimal.
Or you could have subpar speakers, but a phenomenal amplifier and get incredible performance. So
and by the way, give the analogy of what that person kind of looks like, right? We've done with that, right?
Oh yeah, like you'll see Olympic lifters are great examples of this, right? They compete in weight classes. They can lift tremendous amounts of weight for their size. And what they've done is they've become masters of CNS, of their central nervous system. They know how to just squeeze out every bit of juice and energy and fire it in such a unified, efficient way that this 170-pound athlete can lift weights that a 270-pound bodybuilder can't even touch. So go ahead.
It's been practiced so many times that it's basically been buried in the subconscious, where this is like a hardwired system now that now it allows like these governings that are usually in place to kind of lower the amount of force you're able to produce. It allows a lot more force to come through. And this is an advantage that Olympic lifters have because of that discipline, dedication to all the nuance and the detail of being able to repeat this process perfectly.
Totally. On a simple level, right? The CNS tells the muscle how hard to contract. On a more complex level, the CNS is what organizes the technique and the skill. So if you look at like throwing a baseball, okay, you take a bodybuilder who's obviously got far bigger, more powerful muscles than a high school baseball player, but the baseball player's central nervous system organizes their body in a way to maximize technique, and so the ball goes further. But then again, if you go down to the simple level and you just look at just the bicep, right, the CNS can make the muscle relax. By the way, this is what makes you flexible or not flexible. People think a muscle that's flexible is more pliable, like it's rubber that you warm up or something like that. It doesn't work that way. It's literally the central nervous system allowing the muscle to stretch or to contract. So it's like the governor. It controls everything. And when you train your muscles, you train your CNS. You train them both all the time. And if you disregard the CNS, then you're going to not be able to reap all the maximum benefits that you're looking for from your training, because you can actually fry your CNS. But here's a good example. Lose 2 nights of sleep. Go work out. You're way weaker. What happened? Are your muscles smaller? No. Your CNS is fried. On the flip side, you could give someone an injection of adrenaline and they'll go lift 10, 15% more weight. What happened? Their muscles get bigger? No. The adrenaline made their CNS fire.
I love talking about this because I always used to be mystified as to how some of these smaller guys were able to pull off these superhuman feats of strength, while these big muscular guys, couldn't perform the same thing. And a lot of times too, like it is adrenaline, as part of that, but really it's that whole process of your body just allowing all that force to be generated when normally you're pretty much stifled from being able to do that because all the governing's in place, keeping you safe.
Yeah.
It's the communication system to your muscles, from your brain to your muscles. And just imagine all things that would improve if your communication system from your brain to your muscles is improved.
Totally.
Recovery is better, performance is better, strength is better. It's all better because you have a better communication. If you have a poor communication to all these muscles, you're going to have all those things are a little less. That's how impactful having a strong central nervous system is. And so I love this conversation too. I think it's something that is one of the most overlooked things when like programming and thinking about the intensity applied in a training routine. Like, I really think it's an area that even a lot of trainers neglect because, again, it took me even years to understand it. Then I never had brought the words to be able to communicate it really well to clients. And until I remember us all hanging out and like Sal using that analogy, I'm like, what a great way to explain that to the average person who's trying to understand what the hell is this thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've read articles on this, and they in a lot of these articles, they think that the average person can exert at any given moment up to like 50 or 60% of their actual potential strength. And that's because their CNS doesn't allow them to exert any more strength because it doesn't feel safe or unstable, because it's got these kind of like, it's like a speed limiter on your car.
Your muscle right off the bone sometimes.
Yeah, well, Olympic athletes, on the other hand,
80 or 90, right?
Yeah, they can exert 80 to 90% of their total potential, and the ones that go above 90 are obviously world champions. It's also why you hear the story of like the mom who lifted the burning car off her kid, and you're like, how did she do that? By the way, these stories are true sometimes, where you see these crazy feats of strength. Well, under extreme duress, the CNS is like, okay, we're going to injure ourselves because this is obviously worth it for whatever reason. And so, boom, the juice hits, and they injure themselves, but they move the car, or they actually are able to lift something real heavy.
I mean, it's one of the simplest ways to explain the 185-pound Olympic lifter who is stronger than Phil Heath.
Yeah.
I mean, there's examples of these high-level Olympic athletes that can, squat more weight than someone like Phil Heath, and you're looking at it. It's very obvious how strong one of those guys look, but the other one may not look as strong, but it is stronger because of this. I mean, that is the simplest explanation for the difference between those two.
It is, and this is why you feel stronger when you're angry, or when you're excited, or that's why people, power lifters slap themselves in the face and sniff smelling salts. It's all to get the CNS. Yeah, totally. It's to get the CNS kind of fired up. So I love it. It's a great conversation. I think you need to consider both when you train your body. You don't want a bunch of dumb speakers, but of course you want to look good, and you need to have the speakers as well. So train everything. Personally, I've always wanted to be stronger than I looked. That's just because that's what I appreciate. And so this conversation for me, if you ever want to read up on this kind of stuff, you just look at some of the Soviet era weightlifting studies, because they were like masters of figuring this out. That's why they dominated weightlifting for decades.
I feel like there's a pickup line in there like, hey, girl, got beautiful looking speakers, but do they sound good?
Wow.